Hi, Crayolas! Welcome back to Let's Talk with the Lola Twins with your hosts, Brenda
and Cassandra.
Well, you guys already read from today's title and thumbnail. We have a really special guest that flew all the way from Houston just to be with us. And today's guest is...
Jose. What's up, guys?
Hi, Jose. How was your flight from Houston to LA?
It was pretty good. I cannot complain. I did enjoy it, though. It wasn't bad. Like 3 hours? 2 hours and 50 minutes, 45 minutes, but that's good.
Technically 3 hours. Let's just round it up. 3 hours.
Let's just say.
With us, how do you feel being here?
Good. Thank you for having me. I'm feeling excited to talk and just, get some good things going.
Can you please tell us a little bit about yourself so the Crayolas know who you are, what do you do?
All right, yeah. So if you guys haven't read, my name is Jose Reyes. I am a magician and I've been doing that for about 8 years. We'll be 9 pretty soon. So I've had a lot of time indulging in sleight of hand, mind reading, a little bit of mentalism. And and on the side, I actually fight a little bit. So I do jujitsu and Muay Thai, which is where I got the cauliflower ears. And yeah, that's a little bit about myself.
What was your childhood like?
My childhood. So growing up, I was not into magic. I actually didn't get into magic till I was probably about 16 years old. But my childhood, I would say it was pretty good. It was pretty good. I'll be completely honest. I used to be really heavy set growing up. So very overweight. So I would say after high school, I got to a certain point where I kind of was this isn't healthy. I want to do something a little different. And, I joined jujitsu and Muay Thai. But before I had even gotten to that, I had a friend who kind of mentioned something to me and he would slowly, dip his toe in the water telling me, hey, bro, you should care about your weight, this and that, you should watch all that. And that's what kind of led to where I'm at. As for my childhood, everything was good. Thank God, everything was perfect. I have a family that loves me. So, they took care of me and yeah, it's been well.
Speaking of you being a little bit more overweight, did you have any struggles dealing with that, with people being mean to you or bullying you? Or did you ever get self-conscious about it because you were a little bit more overweight?
I think so. Yeah, I think it goes to a certain point that, people will always say that it doesn't really bother them. Because I was like that. I'd be like, man, it's all right, man. It's whatever. It's life. But at the end of the day, you can only be overweight to some extent, it's and it's not healthier for you because at the end of the day, it's you're looking for something to crave yourself with. And it's, some people are addicted with food. And I think in some cases, there will be times I'll be like, you know what? I'm kind of bored. We're just going to eat for fun. And that's kind of scary, but putting all my attention in that. But yeah, I think I did notice some things growing up, kids are mean, but at the same time, I know I wasn't very nice either. I would definitely shoot some shots back. So I could get very personal with other kids and they didn't like me for that. But no, so in times, I would have that. And with struggles, I would say it got to a certain point. It wasn't more till I got to about 16, maybe even possibly even 14. Because the heaviest I was, guys, was 335 pounds. So it was pretty big. I can show you pictures as well. So, there was a time we were at Universal Studios and they were like, hey, I had gone on the ride. I came all the way. Ever since I was little, I was a big fan of Harry Potter. So I was like, bro, it's the castle. I went all the way. I tried the seats like a tester before even going because they had those overweight testers. I tried that and I'm so excited hey, you don't fit. You're not going to be able to get on here. It's messed up, but they were like, hey, you got to get down, bro. And it's the embarrassment is insane. But I think that's definitely one thing that kind of shaped me to be taking care of your health is a normal thing. It isn't not a normal, it's an important thing, right? Not just to live longer and have a healthier life, but to spend more time with those around you and, do activities, whether you have kids and stuff like that too. So, yeah.
So how you started the fitness journey was mainly because the embarrassment of not being able to go on the ride, but there wasn't something that kind of pushed you prior to that, or you're just you know what, or woke up one day and say, today I'm gonna make a change.
I think to some extent. So the reason I say that is because growing up I also didn't care. But that's fine, it's whatever. I would like to call myself not that big, but when I look back at those pictures, I was like, whoa, I was huge. So from going back into it, it wasn't until about 2020, that COVID era. When everybody was at home, a lot of people or a lot of friends that I grew up with who were really skinny, some were there's nothing to do because everybody was just at home. I spent that time working out. And I had a friend of mine who was a magician. And once things started opening up more like halfway through 2020, when people finally started going out again or like wearing the masks, I had a friend who was also a magician. Shout out to him, Daniel Fernandez. He's a pretty popular magician, grew his page out here in LA as well. And he would always like tell me a little bit, hey, bro, so I know you're like a magician and you're performing, but, you should try, focusing on your health, because he was very high on fitness. So he's always, taking care of your body, eating clean and stuff like that. So, he would always tell me things and I would just brush him off. And then 3 months go by. He's back in Houston because he goes out there to visit family. He's like, yo, bro, I want you to help me with this stuff. We're working together, talking magic ideas or whatever. He's like, yo, bro, you should, hop in the gym, man, do something. And like, I had like huge legs. He was like really fat. So he like grabbed me, hey, bro, like you need to get in the gym. But like at the end of the day, you can look at it as bullying, but what he was doing was motivating me, right? So in that time frame, you can be like, dang, bro, that's like messed up. But really, it's not. It's having people who genuinely care for you and want to see something better. So I still didn't listen, right? I know that this is the third time he brings it up. He comes up to me. He's like, hey, bro. He was like, so this is like months later. He comes back, almost a year now. He's like, bro, okay. He was like, I'm not going to come to be rude or anything. He was like, but we need to do something about your weight. He was like, and it's not even to be mean. He was like, but you're a magician, bro. And that's like me trying to grow my social media platform. He's like, if you're going to be, going up, performing for people, doing all these things, you want to be able to look good on camera, or if not, at least feel good mentally. Right. So he started coming and telling me like, I'm going to tell you 5 things that I bet you don't do. I bet you that you haven't even stepped in the gym, and I'm going to tell you 5 things that I know you've done. He's like, you eat potato chips, you drink sodas, you don't exercise, you don't do this, you don't do that. And he named out all those things. And he was like, you're lazy, this. And I was like, bro, who, like at first it's going to sound messed up. I was like, who do you think you are? Right? So, like the ego, but it's also like, you're right. Like, it was true. And he was like, but look, I'll tell you what, bro. So that way you don't think you're doing this alone. I'll hold you accountable. He was like, and you can hold me accountable. There was this workout app that he got me to get on, and it's a really good workout app. And he told me, he was like, bro, all you got to do is 30 minutes to 45 minutes a day. He was like, and then after the workout, it's going to have you take a picture. And then with that picture, we're going to send it to each other. And it would just basically say, congrats, Jose, you completed this exercise. Congrats. And it was like multiple programs. So every day he'd be like, bro, send me a picture. And then he would send me a picture of him. And every day we were holding each other accountable. And whenever he would go, whether to fly out to Dominican Republic or stuff like that, like for work or whatever, England, he'd be like, bro, here's a picture. I sent you it. Let me see yours. And then just like that, going back and forth. And I wasn't even going to stick with it. But my first week, I remember exercising and I would sweat a lot because it was all like full body workouts. My grandma comes inside the house and she's like, whoa, you're looking skinnier. And that, without her even knowing, that was like a confidence booster right there. I was like, you know what? I'm going to stick with it. That's like first week of doing this nonstop. I was like, let's change the eating habits, this and that. And then after like a month and a half of doing that program, because they had multiple programs, I learned about, different programs that they had. There was like a boxing program, yoga programs, different stuff. So I looked into a boxing one and it said I needed all this equipment. And I was like, bro, it'd be nice going to like a boxing gym or something like that. So then I started looking like for boxing equipment online. And then eventually, the gym that I currently train at now popped up, which is known as like a urban jungle self-defense. And at first I was a little insecure about it. Cause I'm like, bro, I'm going to go. And they're just like, bro, we have a free week trial, come in. And from there, I had already dropped about like 15, 20 pounds, just sticking with that program for like about a month. And then once I wanted to switch things up, I joined that. And as soon as I started, I fell in love with it and I just kept going. And, with consistency, I eventually just dropped weight.
How did your friend react to you from transitioning from doing what you were doing to you finding your own path to doing the boxing?
Yeah. So in that time frame, because at first I didn't even start with like any of the MMA. It was just straight jujitsu classes. So, every day we would send each other pictures, but it would say, because it would have the brand of the place, the name, congratulations, you did this workout today, you finished the program. Eventually we're sending each other pictures. And he's like, bro, send me a picture. And then I would send him a picture, but it was no longer with a logo, like in the side. Cause now I was like, I'm working out. This is more sweat than what I was getting before. This is perfect. And then after like a week, he's like, bro, bro, did you stop with the consistency? He's like, these pictures aren't with that app or with this program. I'm like, well, look, bro, I joined jiu-jitsu and I've been doing that. I'm just going to send you these pictures in the meantime. So he's like, okay, that's fine. And we did that. And then something happened to where eventually we stopped holding each other accountable, but we stayed consistent with our fitness stuff and we would talk about it. And then during that time, I never saw him again. I mean, I would talk with him and then a year later comes by. He's like, bro, I'm coming back to Houston. I've been really busy, but I want to get some content together and just do that stuff, you know? And at that time, I didn't really have much of a following. So I was like still relatively new, even just to magic in general. So he was like, bro, let's come here. Let's film a little bit and let's just meet up. So I already had a car. So I drove to the area. He drove and like, he's like, bro, I can't find you. Where you at? And I was like, I'm in this area. And all of a sudden we're like walking up. We bunk heads. I guess that's the term. We bunked heads. And he's like, bro, he was in shock. Like he didn't even talk for like a good 10 seconds. He had his mouth open, shocked because I had lost 130 pounds. Just doing that consistently, doing it every day, or if not, at very least, I was like there 4 times a week, if not more. Like I was like putting in the grind nonstop. And yeah, he was in shock because at that point, all the clothes that I had no longer fit me because I was like almost like, I'll be completely honest, guys, like almost 47, 48 in pants. Like I was like huge. And for like men's, it's like huge pants. Like I would have stuff that, you know, fits the waist, but it was like super long on the legs and stuff. And you know, just because, you know, in that scene, that's all that was available. So you just buy it. And you know, going to, you know, just dropping weight and then having to buy new clothes was very interesting for me, you know? And it was definitely a fun experience because I'm like, hey, now I got to get the clothes that I've always wanted to have, right? That I didn't have in my size. So, you know, I think that was definitely something that transitioned for me. And yeah, I thank God for friends like that. You know, I think it's important to, you know, hold your friends accountable in all situations and having someone to talk to or, you know, and honestly just being honest, you know, because I think if your friends aren't honest with you, they're not real friends, you know?
Do you think it was hard on you to like actually start though? Like, if he wasn't there, do you think you would be able to keep yourself accountable?
I'll be honest, probably not. At first, no. Because at some point I did hold myself accountable and then it was just me.
Were you discouraged at one point?
I used to go to like the YMCA. Once I got to about high school, it was like down the street from my high school. So I was like, bet YMCA is right there. I would go and I actually got my first job there. But I started going to the gym, paying for a personal trainer. But it's like he was doing all the work. Personal trainer was awesome. He was helping me out. But at home, I wasn't changing my eating habits. So it was my eating habits. So it's like that's a majority of what, you know, fitness is. It's not just the work that you're doing in the gym. It's what you're actually taking in, right? It's the eating. If you're eating bad, you're going to expect bad results, you know? So I think that's definitely something that I wasn't aware of. And the more I started, you know, exercising and he started holding me accountable, the more I wanted to eat cleaner. And every time we would go out, like after finishing, you know, shooting content or just hanging out, I'd be like, yo, bro, let's go eat. And I would get the most unhealthiest thing on the menu. And bro would be like, what's the healthiest thing you guys have on the menu? Give me a water. I would get like a Fanta and I'd just be drinking that. He'll be like, nah, bro. He was like, that's like that's like sugar. He was like, you shouldn't be drinking that. But he was like, it's like he wouldn't judge. He was just being honest. Yeah. You can take it as judgment, but I think I really am thankful for moments like that because I think it definitely played a role in who I am now and, you know, dropping weight, you know, so.
How did you deal with transitioning from eating so unhealthy to eating so clean? Because I know for a lot of people, it's really hard to transition from eating unhealthy sugary drinks because they're so used to it to trying to eat a cleaner and living a better lifestyle.
I would say it's definitely hard. I would say even now it's still kind of hard, you know, because, you know, you have all these temptations of different food. Like for me, I could avoid any food, but the one thing for me would be sweets. Oh, I love sweets so much, like chocolates, all that stuff. That's my thing right there. But like when it came to like, you know, getting rid of those things, the transition at first was like, let's do slow, right? If I enjoy a bag of chips, let's eat half the bag of chips and then, or let's just eat one maybe every 2 days or one every 3 days and slowly start declining and taking it away. And I know for everyone it doesn't work. And there was also some things that I knew it wasn't good for me. I'd cut it out instantly. Like the things that I know I couldn't cut out so fast, I would go, okay, slowly, we're not going to drink this. Slowly, we're not going to drink soda. And now when I drink soda, I can't even drink it because it doesn't taste good. Now, if anything, if I'm addicted to anything now, it would be coffee. I'm a huge coffee fan. It's like, I love it. That's probably about like the only thing that I would say I really hold in there. But when it comes to like food wise, the transition was tough at first. but slowly declining will help. And that's like for anybody watching too. Slowly declining the food definitely helps.
That's admirable because honestly, I do know a lot of people say like, oh, it's always my eating thing. But I always tell people like, honestly, you don't have to cut it off completely because obviously it's really hard from eating like all of your favorite things to thinking you can't eat certain things. But I always tell people it's not that you can't eat it. There's just alternates that you can eat or replacement to that, or just you can like eat still what you want, but just know how to measure how much you eat of it, you know?
Exactly. So like counting your calories, right? Or eating portions, like, because they say the human stomach is literally only about like this big, or if not like this big, you know? So you got to think about it. We're eating a whole big old portion. You know, if you're eating a whole big old portion, think about how much you're fitting into this hole. So it's like if we're eating a whole bunch and eating multiple times throughout the day, that definitely affects it. Yeah.
I agree in that aspect because you could still enjoy what you like to eat. It's finding the supplement of or the healthier version of whatever you like to eat. Because you can still eat burgers, you can replace the buns with like keto bread, sweet potatoes, but they're still doable. I think the hard part is just, I think mainly is that we're lazy. We don't want to do that. We'd rather just go to In-N-Out and buy a burger. Like, it's right there. It's so convenient, which makes sense. But that's impressive that you were motivated and stick to it. And to this day, you see you could do it.
And with that, you had mentioned earlier that you transitioned from being boxing to doing magic.
Okay, so the magic was already there, right? So I started when I was about 15. So I would say in high school with magic, I saw how it started. I saw a video of a magician doing magic to a cop. And he was doing like a quick little like prank. And I was like, man, you know, after I seen that, I was like, I want to learn how to do that. So I started going on YouTube and I started like just finding out how to do simple card tricks, you know, stuff that was simple, you know? So I learned how to do things that was like this, you know, manipulating cards or whatever it may be. And then eventually tricks got so easy that I started buying books from like 1950s, 1960s, and I started studying and reading these books to learn what else can I do. And then over time, you know, after studying that, I got better. And I would say it definitely helped me, you know, to overcome, because I feel like when I was growing up, I didn't really talk much. I was always more to myself. But in school, and I think every magician's call this, I was known as like Magic Man. So I would go around and I would just perform for like random strangers. And of course you had those moments I'd mess up the trick and I'm like, oh, I messed it up. I'm sorry. And that all of that thing was preparing me for now, right? So now when I perform for people, I would say I'm confident or go into it confident, right? That my sleight of hand is where it's at to, you know, get a good reaction and just work things like that.
So how did you start the magician? Like it was just something really that just sparked you in high school?
Yeah. Interesting. It's like I have no reasoning to why. It's like all of a sudden I saw that video of the magician doing magic and I was like, bro, that seems so cool. I was like, why not learn that now? And then I was doing it in high school. And then, you know, you have some kids that are like, man, I'm going to catch you this and that. And then I'd fool them. And like, for me, that was like my sense of joy. Now, what sucks is that I know how the tricks are done. So sometimes it can take away the actual magic of the trick. I love seeing reactions of people, right? Because when you see them react, you know, you never know what someone's going through. I've met some people who have gone through depression or going through hard times. And, you know, whenever they see a magic trick and they genuinely enjoy it or you genuinely fooled them, it's like their inner child comes out, right? Their 5-year-old self. And I think that's one thing that I enjoy because it's like, while yes, it is technical and it's all sleight of hand, it gives people that sense of joy and a reason for smiling. Like if they don't smile much or they're more to themselves, you know, seeing something like that visual after them not seeing it like ever, you know, it's very unique.
And what's something that's so stereotypical about magic that's so controversial between because I know there's a lot of good things about it and there's a lot of bad things that are told. So since you've been doing it for such a long time, looking to our crayolas that like some of them I'm pretty sure might like magic and you can tell them some of the good things and bad things about it.
I'll be completely honest. One of like the biggest stereotypes when it comes to like being a magician or magic is that right away, oh, this is demonic, this is black magic, this is that. And I can see why people say that because it's like, it's almost like you've never seen something like that before. So how's it happening? But I'll be completely honest. it has nothing to do with like black magic. You know, all this is like sleight of hand, right? This is technical learning how to like manipulate cards, right? So this is known as like cardistry, like flourishes and stuff like that, right? To, you know, look nice. And all this is just hours and hours of practice. Now, in some of my stuff, like some of my videos, I like go on the streets and I read people's minds and do stuff like that. That's what makes people think, is there something else that you're doing? Because that doesn't look like something you can learn. And the stereotype with that is, you know, communicating with people, right? So I think that to push back that stereotype, I like to look at people in a way of like communicating, right? So if you can get someone to talk to you, you can learn a lot about that person on an instant, right? So it's like psychology or learning how to manipulate their brains, and a sense of like it's the same thing, but you're using it for a magic trick. And that's kind of like what I love to do whenever it comes to performing.
Did you ever think you will struggle to fit in because typical like high school things would be more of like playing sports or doing some sort? Do you think doing magic put you like aside from everybody else, or did you feel different?
I'll be completely honest. Yeah, I did feel different because in a sense, everybody was doing sports, right? Or if it was this, if it was that, and I was always kind of to myself. In a sense, it's like all these kids are like playing sports. They're all doing something. And I didn't even think of it like that, to be completely honest. But once I started getting closer to magic, I found out that there was like 3 other magicians in my school. And I had no clue until people started being like, who'd you learn that from? This magician? This magician? I'm like, who? They go here to school. And I'm like, what? So I started hanging out with them. And I'd be like, I almost took that in a sense. It's like my sport, right? This is my competition now. Like all these people are like soccer players and they're competing against each other. Bet this is going to be my competition. So every time I would see them perform, and they wouldn't really perform, it's like, I feel like in a sense, they weren't really passionate. And to me, I took that as like, okay, it's our time to be competitive. What's a better trick you can do that's going to be better than that? And then I started just, learning more and started adapting it to change my mindset, whether it was talking to other magicians or just, watching how a trick would go. Like there was tricks that I would do. If they wouldn't get a high reaction, I'd be like, okay, maybe it was that tough crowd. Let's go somewhere else. No high reaction, trash the trick. Good method, but it's not doing well, or I'm just not performing it well. So let's do something else. And I took that competitiveness as my sport growing up. And I think that's kind of where it led me to be now, to where now I don't try to compete with other magicians, but I like to look at what can make me stand out. And I think my videos in some sense stand out to other, magicians' videos.
Speaking of you doing this, now that you've been doing this for such a long time, how do your parents take it that you do this? I was gonna ask that.
It's very interesting. At first, I'll be completely honest. So before I was doing this, I actually used to work at like a Home Depot. So I used to just do that, and I was working the lumber area for like so long. But to me, it was like, man, I'm really passionate about the magic stuff. So one day, I have a cameraman. He was like, yo, bro, we should start getting more content, right? I started like focusing more on making ideas throughout the videos, and he would help me out too. And then eventually he was like, bro, you should quit your job. And now I was just like, nah, bro, that's crazy. I'm not going to quit my job. I was like, I'm not going to do it. I was like, I guess like, bro, because we just don't know. Why am I just going to quit my job? I was like, at least let me make some income. We'll make content and we'll just make, we'll make content and I can at least get money, that way in the same sense. So it was very hard because my off days would only be on like, bro, they would literally give me like a Tuesday and a Thursday or like a Wednesday and a Monday. And like, those are the days that people aren't out. I was like, I need content. So I would tell them, and they would never want to give me my day off until one day in Houston, a bar started seeing my videos. At this point, my social media started growing. It wasn't high, but I was grateful for it because I think it was like at 50K, and I was growing. I started to see the progress. No money yet, but I was starting to see the progress. So I was like, okay. One day I was just like, he told me about it. They booked me and we gave them a high price. I was like, let's just see. Well, to me, it was high at the moment because I never went and actually got paid for events. It was like something else. I'd always do it for free and I'd learn from the experience because I loved it so much. And my family and my friends were always like, bro, you need to charge for that. You need to charge. And I never would because I enjoyed it. And then one day I took that risk and I was like, you know what? Let's just charge this and see what happens. And we were already starting to see slight numbers. And they were like, yeah, we want to have you and we want to have you here every week. Man, so now I can get paid full time just for being a magician. And it was a club and like nightclubs over there in Houston, which are pretty big nightclubs. So I'm like, bet. So I had this one and then right next door there was another one. They were like, and then you do this one right afterwards. So I was getting double paycheck in one night. And that what I was getting was like 3 times the amount of what I was making. So I was like, bro, let's go. This is perfect. They booked us once and they told us, hey, we want to have you again. And then we'll settle this, like casually to constantly have you. And then all of a sudden we did the first one. And then he was like, bro, quit your job now. Now that we have it, bet. I quit it. I quit my job and my family was upset. They're like, why did you quit your job? Like you should have kept it. You don't know if this is going to do well. And then literally we're getting ready. It was going to be a Cinco de Mayo event. And they let us know a week in advance. Hey, we want to have you. We want to pay you this amount. Be here. And then all of a sudden they ghosted me. I never did the event. I had already quit my job. job. I had only collected one paycheck from them, like that from the very first time. This would have been the second time. And I had already quit my job thinking, bro, I'm going to make money now, more money than before. And now it was like nothing. So it was like, whoa, you quit your job already. This is the last amount of money you're going to have. How are you going to make money? You have two choices. You can go back into a job, right? Or you can try and grind it out and make money doing content and just be a full-time magician. And I'll be completely honest. I'm a firm believer in God. So eventually, I was like praying to God, teach me what you want me to do. How can I go about my way? And, how can I glorify through these things? And, in that moment, I wasn't as close to God as I would say now, but God definitely paved the road for me either way, because I used to pray when I was working at the previous job, like, hey, I want to one day, when I grow up, be doing this full time, be doing this, I want to be a magician, right? I want to like enjoy doing what I do. And then one day, quitting that job and then all of a sudden being ghosted. Yeah, it was a struggle. I struggled for like almost 6 months to a whole year. It was like, whoa, there's no money. How are we going to do this? No money. How are we going to do this? And, God always, provided, and it was good. Yeah. I always found the runaround, and it was those risks, taking those risks that led me to where I'm at now.
And how were you mentally during that time period that you didn't have the job and it ghosted you?
I was struggling. I'll be completely honest. I was struggling with income because I was like, I was doing so good at the job I was at. So I was like, why do I want to go and ask my parents for money? I think that's weird. Like, I know like your parents and your family could always be there, but I think it's like, and it's going to sound really bad because I've gotten closer to God, but in that moment, I would look at it as a pride thing because I was like, how am I going to go ask them for money? After I was doing so good, they're going to like make fun of me. And now because like I quit my job, they're going to be like, you're risking out. You don't have money. So it's not that I didn't know I could go to them. I knew I could go to them, and I knew they were going to be there for me regardless, because they're a great family. But it's also at the same time, it's like, I want to try and take this risk on my own. I chose to do this. So let's see what we can make happen to it. And thank God it's led me to where I'm at now.
Was your family supported during the whole process that you were trying to grind it out?
I'll be completely honest. At first, no. I love them, but at first, no. They were like, you're not going to make money. Like, it's not going to work. They were like, how do you know it's going to work? You're a magician. It's like, because magician is always seen as something like, for kids parties and stuff like that. But I didn't really want to specialize in just kid parties. I wanted to specialize in adults, some crazy kind of things. And, I think in that moment, they also didn't understand because it's like, it's a different age group, right? So it's like, how can you make money off of posting on social media? And I think that's definitely where it was at. And then I got my first paycheck, and I remember it was like nothing. I think it was like $100 or a little less. But I was like, bro, this is awesome. Bet we're going to make it work. I was like, it's only up from here. And then it kept going. And then eventually I noticed a decline. $35. And I was like, how am I going to do it? And it almost got to like the point where it was like very scary. Cause like, you can't rely on this to be your full source of income. But I generally do think if you are consistent and you're putting in the work, results definitely show. Yeah.
If you didn't take the risk, you wouldn't be where you are right now.
Yeah, I don't think I would have. I think definitely it's important to take risks because I think everybody, I think God has a plan for everybody. And I think, even when you don't know that plan, of course, you're still going to go through trials and tribulations. I like to read scripture a lot. So Romans 5 talks about, you're going to go through trials, errors, tribulations, but all what this does, all of this doing, all of these things is to build your character, right? It's a reasoning for hope. Even whenever it feels uncertain and you're doubting, I do think it's all, for a reason. And I think taking the risks is important. You only live once. So it's like, why do you want to be old regretting who you could have been? And then let's say, for example, it doesn't work out. Let's say, for example, your plan flops. Okay. But at the end of the day, you can die when you're older, knowing that you took that risk. You still tried. And at the end of the day, I think that's important instead of just letting your dreams die. And I think that's like a hard thing because I think fear is a really big part of that. And I think that's what stops a lot of people from taking the risks. And I guess you can say having confidence in themselves that they can pull through in what they want in life.
One thing I do want to know is how did you look through all that? Did you ever doubt yourself when you got the $100 or $35? You're like, damn, like maybe my parents are right. Maybe this is not for me and I have to go back to working at Home Depot.
Yeah, I definitely did doubt. I doubted a lot, actually. There was a lot of times in the past where I was like, how can this work? It's like no shade, but I was like, bro, I don't want to go back to having a normal job. I would pray for moments like this, to be able to have a full-time job of being a magician. And it's like, and then there's like no results. I'm like, bro, it's not going on. It's like, bro, I'm like trying, I'm doing all this, I'm doubting. It's like, bro, do I need to go get a job? And I was like, how am I going to go back to a job? It was my ego, and ego was like so bad, but it was like my self-ego that was like, nah, you have to do it this way. You have to do it this way. And I was so caught up in complaining that I wasn't being grateful because you got to look back into the past. It was that self-ego right? I'm literally being a full-time magician that before, I'm like complaining. I'm over here complaining like, man, it's not working out. I'm doubting this. I'm doubting that I'm not even realizing that I'm living in a prayer that I prayed for. Yeah, of course there's struggles, right? Not every life is perfect. Just because you prayed for it doesn't mean it's going to be perfect. Life isn't perfect. Life comes with its imperfections, and, it's definitely going to be through a lot of trials and, tribulations. And I think that's the beauty of life, because if you take that risk, that doesn't mean that things aren't ever going to be there. Of course they're going to be there, but it's how you handle them. And I think that's a very important thing.
What does your family say now that they see you succeeding and like you actually stuck through and you risked it?
I think they see it as a very interesting thing, because I think it's still, to some sense, it's like, how are you making money doing this? And I'm just like, I'm going out doing content, and sometimes like I'll be at home and they'll see me and they'll be like, you don't work, you don't do anything, you're just here. And it's just like, it's not that I don't work. It's that I just go out, I film content, and then after that, I come back home and I edit. I'm either trying to do brand deals and stuff like that. But now they're very supportive, and they can see it's interesting for them to see that, this is how I make money, because they know now that it's a different way for, I guess for a new age. And I guess you can say like now the whole world is run off social media. So they see now how it works.
And how long did it take for them to actually accept the reality of like, wait, my son is actually doing social media, like this is actually what he wants to do?
I think it took him a while. I think it took him more about like almost 2 years, a year and a half, because because at first they wouldn't see many results, but they started seeing results. And the more I started traveling for work, like not just going to like something local like Austin or Dallas, but like more like LA and stuff like that, or like Las Vegas, and working there, were like, whoa, this is interesting. So he's getting paid. He's going out there to do videos, right? And it's just like, and he's just getting paid to do that. And I think in that sense, it's like, they're seeing something different, something new. And I think they're very supportive of it. They enjoy what I do. They know, I think they kind of like go in their own lane, but they are very supportive of what I want to do. And they just tell me like, as long as you're pushing for and it's what makes you happy, I think you should chase it.
Was it hard though? Because they were during the 2 years that you were trying and trying. Did you ever think you're like, damn, you know what? I'm done? Because I do know like a lot of people, especially in the social media industry, have the habit of thinking like, oh, well, when things don't go the way they plan, obviously, because like some people blow up like this, some people blow up like sometimes it takes a long time, and they start getting in their head a little bit because other people, other outside voices get in their head thinking like, maybe they're right, like maybe this was not my calling and I'm doing this, but I'm not gonna make it. Like, how everyone always says like, you're just gonna be out of the everyone else that tried and never made it.
Yeah, I think that's not even just with family. I think that's the perception of anybody, right? And it's like, it's how are you letting it affect you? Because you got to come into it in the sense of like, is this really what you want to do? I think when it comes to like social media, it's that you have to adapt. Social media is adapting. One thing that I've learned from social media is not just working with content creators, but even brand deals. Everything is in some sense not always planned correctly. It's always like done, okay, we're doing it right now, or a week in advance. And I think it's like, or maybe like you have everything planned. You planned it out like a month, 2 months in advance. And you're like, bet, we're here. We're going to do this. And now all the plans are going to trash. Now this person's canceling. This is happening. This is happening. And I think that's the same with anything. You can look at life that way, but I think social media is all about adapting and just being ready to, step on it, on anything. Yeah, of course it's going to get discouraging, right? But I think you have to ask yourself, are you doing it just to be a one-time view, or are you genuinely passionate about it? Because social media is up and down. Because I'll be completely honest, just because you have followers or whatever, I don't think we should discredit anybody, because no one's better than anybody. At the end of the day, I like to read scripture a lot. So the book of Ecclesiastes talks about, you are dust and into dust you shall return. Everything that we have in this world, worldly desires, pleasures, right? It can be like watches, materialistic things, at the end, you can't take that with you, So all you can generally take away is the memories or what you did in this life. So I think if you're looking at it in that sense, adapting and trying to live to follow not just God, but what you want to do in life, if it aligns with God's will, it's going to happen.
Amen.
Did you think you were going to be a musician though? Did you honestly?
5 years ago, did you see, if like younger you 5 years ago, or when you were in high school, did you see yourself doing the life you're doing now?
No, I did not. I'll be honest. I was like, I never would have thought I'd be here, and it's interesting because time goes by so fast. You blink and it's like, bro, we're already almost done with the year. It's insane. And it feels like it just started. And, at first I would pray for moments like that, but not be like, but do I really want that? Think about this, think about that. And then I never really knew what I wanted in life. It's like growing up, I really liked the idea of editing. So I want to be a visual effects editor. So I learned how to edit. I was actually going to school for that. And about halfway, I kind of like stopped going. I kind of like dropped out. out. And my family took that as like, why are you dropping out? They're like, why don't you want to do both? You know, it's important to do this and this. But I found my calling and my social media started doing well. That I was kind of like, maybe school isn't for me. And like editing, you can learn that without a degree. And I took that like that. And then I was like, man, I don't know if like this is a good thing or a bad thing. We're going to take it as it goes. It's definitely been a journey. And I think it's awesome when, if you're actually being consistent and actually just trying to put in the work, you know, at the end of the day, the results will come, even if they don't come so fast.
Do you think that leaving school was like the best option then? Or like, do you still think it was good of decision? Or do you have like sometimes like, man, I should have finished school?
I'll be honest. Sometimes I think about it. As I've grown more into, you know, doing magic and speaking on camera and stuff like that, I like the idea of not just being like an influencer, but the idea of being a businessman, you know? I want to have, you know, multiple businesses as I grow up. And I really like being, you know, I guess you can be in a sense, I like the idea of being an entrepreneur, right? Like being able to make money with whatever's around you, adapting to the economy and stuff like that. So sometimes I still get the thoughts of like, man, should I go to school? Should I go do this? But I think genuinely, you know, I don't think school is for everyone. I really don't think so. I think to some people it's awesome and they make their money that way. I think to others, it's not. Don't get me wrong. I think that paper, you know, that you get, you know, your degree and everything can go a very long way. I really do think so. But I think if you're doing whatever genuinely makes you happy in this world, I think that's all that matters. And for me, you know, I was like, what's another thing that I can adapt with? And recently, I know I was telling you guys, I got into real estate. I think that's another way of building yourself. I like the idea of marketing yourself. Right? Building your brand around yourself, because yes, there's going to be trials and struggles all the time, but it's the idea of showcasing who you are and how quick you are able to adapt even when things are going your way, you know? So I think that's kind of where I'm at right now.
And how do you keep yourself reminded that all these things are going to happen, situations are going to happen, obstacles you're going to face? How do you remind yourself every day you're going to be okay?
Every day, I start off my morning by praying to God, you know, being thankful to God, because everything that we have is of God, you know, because of God. God is love. So I think it's very important to, you know, prioritize God, because in the end, that's generally what matters, because it's not really a religion. It's, you know, a relationship. You know, how close are you to God? It's not just be like, I believe in God and that's it. No, it's generally speaking to God, you know, having a relationship. And I think it's like having faith and trusting Him in the process. And, you know, believe it or not, you know, I really do think that, you know, we're not just put on this earth just to be humans, but I take that as like, you know, do everything that I can to glorify God, right? So it's in my act. So even when I'm performing, before I have like a big show, I'm like, God, whatever happens in this show, I just ask that you take over. Let it be done to glorify you and whatever I can, you know? And it's like, and if it's not for me, I've prayed to God too. God, if this isn't the path that you want for me, take it away from me. Yes, it's going to hurt, but I generally do think, you know, God, that whatever happens is because you give to me, you know? So even whenever times are tough, or like, whether it's like, whether you're struggling with finances, worldly desires, or just like not knowing where to go in your head, I think you just need to have someone to talk to or come to God about it and have faith, even in times of uncertainty.
Before you built the relationship with God, now you're saying you're closer to Him. Who did you seek for, like when you were struggling?
Who did I seek for? Well, I'll be honest, starting off with like content, you know, I knew of God, but I generally didn't have a relationship, right? So, you know, I would think of like, you know, I guess you could say things of this world, right? So it can be like lustful desires, right? Worldly desires, materialistic. Like when it came to like performing, and it's going to be completely I'm just going to be honest, because why would I lie to you guys, right? So starting off, my content was very, in a sense, lustful. It was directed to like more like to try and do, I guess you can say, more worldly things for content and just chasing views. But eventually I'm chasing that and it's like, is this generally what I want people to know me as? And then my friend, who is my cameraman, his name is Gabriel, he would always help me out, you know, get content, let's do this. Eventually he started getting closer to God, but we would always talk and we would always have the same intention, like, bro, we're going to shoot the content like this. We're going to do it like this. We're going to do it like this. Because we know this is what people want to see, whether it was worldly things or just things like that. We're like, we know this is the way, and we're going to steer the conversation this way and this way. And it was, in a way, it's messed up, but I'm honest, because I've changed. It was manipulating, you know, because it's like craving that attention or that dopamine from an audience, because it's like, okay, views, cool. Okay, views, I'm chasing the views. That's what I was seeking. My eyes weren't seeking God. And, you know, I honestly just started going through many trials, tribulations, errors. And then before you knew it, you know, one day I started like opening up my Bible. Like I had a Bible, but I started opening it up more and started reading it, and it started catching my interest. Before you knew it, it's like sooner or later, it's like my relationship wanted to grow. I started yearning to want to know who is God, right? It's like not just saying, okay, like this is who He is. No, but generally trying to understand. And, you know, I think we definitely go through our trials, but over time, you know, God has definitely paved me to where I'm at right now. And I'm grateful for everything I have.
Did you ever doubt God was real though? during the process, did you ever like, oh God, like this, he's not real because he's not giving me these things and I keep asking for it. And there's no direction or sense of direction or where you should go.
It's very interesting that you say that because I was doubting God at one point. Because it's like, God, I see that you reward so many other people with things, but I'm trying to get closer to you. And this is what you give me. Like, God, if you're real, why aren't you answering me in this sense? You know what? Why aren't you giving me what I want? I pray to you every night. I do this. But following God doesn't mean you're not going to go through your trials. And just because you pray to him does not mean that he's going to give you whatever you want. I'm a really big fan. I want to say it's James chapter 4, New Testament. If you go in there, it talks about fighting and quarrels among brothers and sisters. And also that when you ask God, you do not ask with the right intentions. It's that way you can get whatever you receive from God for the wrong reasons, right? So for your lustful desire. So if you go in there, it's just like you can ask God for whatever you want. Doesn't mean he's going to answer you. It's not that he doesn't listen. He doesn't want it for you. It's that he knows that what you're going to use is for the wrong intentions. That's James chapter 4. And if you really go in there, it goes into detail to show that, why do you generally want that? Like if you want to be high on social media, okay, cool. What is the goal for it? Are you generally trying to influence people, or are you just trying to manipulate them as a paycheck, or you just want to have the social status, and I think it's much more than that. I think it's generally like what is your plan in life, and how do you want to direct it? Which way do you want to take it? And I think it's important to realize that. Yeah.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Like, what does your ideal, or what do you think you're going to be doing?
5 years. Wow. We can say what we think, but 5 years goes by so fast. Genuinely right now, I would love to travel the world as much as possible. I think we only live once, and travel, get to meet other people and, enjoy it, because we're not here forever. Some people barely live to even get to 70 years old, so I think I want to make the most of what I have and just travel, experience the world. I want to see myself, already having multiple businesses. And yeah, we'll see what God has in store for us. And yeah, I guess you could say like just having multiple businesses and just continually growing, not just on social media, but, becoming becoming one of the biggest magicians. So yeah.
Period. Manifest it. I just want to say how I admire, it's admirable to see how you're so, full of energy. I can feel your energy from here. You're so full of life. You're so positive. The way you see things it's amazing to hear and see that you don't see bad things. You see, you're okay, this didn't work, but let me take a step back. This is why it happened, and I should be very appreciative for that. And that's what a lot of people lack. So I just want to say that what you're doing is admirable. Keep doing what you're doing. You're doing it amazing.
What is a piece of advice you would give the Crayolas or the viewers that's struggling and is having a hard time finding their path, or questions what they want to do with life, or anything they're just having a hard time right now?
If you're having a hard time with life and not sure what to do, I'll be completely honest. I think you should definitely talk to someone about it. And not just when I say talk to somebody about it, I'm not just saying, talk with a friend. Talk with someone who you can genuinely trust. Because sometimes, you got to put in a sense of who genuinely wants the best for you. At the end of the day, family's always going to be there for you, but you need to go to someone who you can trust and is there for you. And I think it's important to have someone to also, I guess in a sense, hold each other accountable. It's important to sometimes talk it out. I think something in this world that a lot of people misconceptualize is that, oh, it's bad if I talk about my emotions, my feelings, and doing these things. But I think it's important to be with a group and communicate with them. And I think it's important to, be with a group. Something that I did that actually helped me out getting closer with God. I actually started my own Bible study group. So I'm the leader of the group. And it's very interesting because it holds you accountable. It's every week I'm okay, let's go through scripture. What are we going to go through? And not just, I would say it's definitely incorporating God in something. But even if that's something that, you're not used to, definitely having a community of people, or even just yourself, someone that you can talk to when, you feel doubt, because, this world can show you that it's bad to speak about your emotions. But I think it's very important because, you bottle so many things in and it causes you to get hurt. And sometimes you don't feel it right away until maybe someone gets you really mad, whether it's a family or friend. And maybe it's not even a big thing. And I'm guilty of this because I used to be like this, where I bottle so much anger in, and then it's I don't say it. I'll keep it to myself. And then I take it out on the wrong person or someone who told me something. And now while I'm retaliating back, I'm adding on. And it's just that person did nothing to you, And like like I said, I'm a big follower of God. So I think it's generally trying to live the way Jesus did. And even he went through his trials and tribulations. You know, people mocked him, people spit on him, people did all type of things. But what did he do every time? He prayed to the Father, right? Even in times of uncertainty and doubt, he still prayed to God, you know? Even in the Garden of Gethsemane, when he was about to get, crucified, the night before, he's like scared. It's right after the Last Supper. First thing he did, he separated from his group, prayed to God, and he would have that group with him. So it's important. If you are scared to talk to somebody, talk to God.
What's something you would tell your younger self if you was watching this right now, as in either struggling, like the success you've been doing so far, or the hard work that has came, and all the obstacles you have overcome?
Don't let the negativity of people affect who you are, and just focus on trying to be a light for all those around you and imitating Christ in everything you do.
Did you think, like, throughout your whole life, like, did you have any negative thoughts or, like, really struggled, like, say, I'm getting anxious about this or I'm getting depressed because of this?
No, I feel like I didn't feel that so much growing up. Yeah, of course there was times where I'm like, upset at things, but it wasn't more like to the sense where I took it out on myself. I felt like I would take it sometimes, if not like through conversations, if people would say a joke to me, I'd retaliate in a way to like upset them. And in a sense, it's like that can be ugly because it's like, it's a cool relationship. It was a friendship. But at time, I would take advantage of that and retaliate in a harder sense. And I think like that's something that I'm glad that I've changed from. But, my past, I used to be not the greatest person, sometimes like growing up, because it was like, I would hold those emotions in or bottle things in that maybe I'd get mad at people, So it's like as I started getting closer to God, you notice all these imperfections. And of course, you're never going to be perfect, but all we can do is live every day trying to be better.
I like the mentality. That's very, very good, because she over here,
I know, I'm like,
take
like,
your
maybe-
advice a little bit, because goddamn, girl.
I know, I'm like listening to them, like, maybe I should relax a little bit, because I feel like I hold in a lot and I just don't express the way I feel to anybody, because I'm like, I don't like venting to people. I'm very like, I like to think I'm in the mindset where I'm very stubborn and tough skinned. So I'm like, I got this. I got to figure it out.
And it's hard too, because it's also like, you don't want people to know how you're doing on the inside. And it's like, now these people are going to judge me. Like who, and then you get that ego, or at least I did. I'm like, and who do these people think they are? They're going to judge me. It's like, who are they? And it's like, that's how I was with myself. But it's like, as you start, like I said, connect yourself with people who you can trust, right? Like your sister. But if it's something that you don't want to come to your sister about, another friend that you can trust, right? You can come to them about it, or family, or like I said, the most important person, God.
And I feel like lately I've been talking more to him a little bit. I have expressed my feelings a little bit to my friend. Like, I know I could talk to my sister, but there's just stuff that I'd rather, because I don't know if you know, she does have anxiety. And like, there's things I don't want to tell her because she does get anxious about it. So shout out to Boo Boos. I go to her to talk to her. Obviously, I don't give like main details. I might kind of go around the bush. Lately, I've been expressing myself to her, but I do, now that you're saying your story and everything is making me analyze my life, and I'm just maybe I should take a step back and like just relax, which everybody tells me to do, but I just don't listen.
It's hard. Are you the oldest?
No, I'm not the oldest of my siblings, but I'm older than her.
Yeah.
She's the oldest, really? Okay. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I feel like one thing for me as the oldest, it's kind of like, I don't really want to tell nobody in my family how I'm doing mentally, right? Because
Oh, you're the oldest. Oh, how many siblings do you have?
total 6.
How many?
If you're including me, it's what, 6?
Oh, I heard 12. I was like, what?
No, I would say definitely it's like, I want to be the role model, but I also want to be someone who they can come to me if they have a problem going on.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Like, you feel pressure because you're like, I'm the first one of my family. Like, I have to.
Yeah, and then even if they're not following my footsteps, I think everybody has like their own role to play. I think it's just like, sometimes I was very good to this. Like, I don't want to tell nobody what I'm going through, because I want them to be able to come to me. How am I going to stress them out with my problems? So that's kind of how I would take it, and I wouldn't say anything. So even now, I'll be honest, I don't really go to them much when I'm going through stuff. Like I said, I have a group that I do like a Bible study with, right? So whenever I'm struggling, I'm not sure what to do, I can hit one of them up. I can call them, or I can call some of my friends and be like, yo, bro, so I have this on my mind. What should we do? And, they're so cool, because the first thing they do, like, okay, they talk to me like, now let's pray about it. Let's do this. Let's do this. And we look for ways that we can incorporate God, because at the end of the day, he's the one that can truly satisfy us, right? He knows our desires. He's God. Jesus is God in the flesh. He came. He knows everything we went through. He knows our emotions. So he died for that. I don't think we should ever go feeling imperfect, but just trying to, just glorify him, and know when things are not going well, you have him who you can confide in and trust in.
Do you feel pressured by your parents specifically because you feel like, oh, like they expect a lot from you just because you were the oldest and you have little siblings?
Yes, I think at some point, yeah, I think in some cases they can expect a lot from me, and you can look at it in a negative way. Now that I've gotten closer to God, I always want to help out as much as I can, but at the same time, it's like I also got to do my stuff too, right? So it's definitely trying to find that middle part, but it is also hard in the sense of where, like, not is it only just you and an audience that is watching you, but your family's watching you, right? So it's like, how can you be a role model to them? And maybe this is not even doing anything to them, but I think it's generally how you carry yourself, how you act when things aren't going your way, when things, aren't being so successful. Are you going to complain? And before I used to complain, I'd get angry very fast. I was very quick to get angry. That's my biggest thing. I get angry so fast. Someone could like get me angry like that. And I remember like I'd be quick. Like I was not very humble, I guess you could say in some senses. And so I started jiu-jitsu and then I started like getting beat up by all these people. I'm like, yep. That's it. So I started getting humble. And it's also like at the end of the day, you got to remember, you're no one better than anybody else. So I think that's definitely one thing that kind of shaped me. And I kind of want to just, live life, not just to be a role model to them, but to let anybody know that if you're ever going through something, find someone to talk to it about. It's important to express those emotions. And in the same sense, I want my siblings or my family to be the one that can come to me.
And your family is very close? You guys are very united.
Yes, I would say so. So I do have divorced parents, but yeah. In a sense, though, we are very, very close. Yeah.
Did that affect you at all when they did get divorced?
Younger, yes, but I feel like in some sense I was able to block it out. You know how some people say like the trauma stuff? It never really affected me to some sense. I was like, I always yeah, I know it was ugly, but I kind of like blocked it out and I just didn't let that affect me. And I just kind of like went throughout my day and yeah, it's kind of just like where I'm at now.
Do you think with that some extent, because of that, it made you be an angry person, or it was how you were?
No, I think it was just my temper. I think because it's also like I was the firstborn. So I'll be honest, growing up, I was a little spoiled. So as soon as since I was the firstborn, I'm spoiled. Something didn't go my way, I'd be mad. I think that's probably why growing up, they don't go my way.
He's like, if I don't get in my way,
you're like, you guys came after me, so I go first.
So yeah, so I think that's kind of how I would play it. So I think that's where my temper really came from. But either that or, I don't know, maybe it was just the overweight stuff, right? I mean, you just never generally know. But it's how you react to it. Because now my family tell me stuff. Sometimes they think I'm going to get mad. And now it's like the closer I've gone to God, it makes me not want to get mad. And it makes me think back of all those times that I did lash out and how ugly I must have sounded. Not just to them, but to people around me, to friends or people would think about now. It's like, yeah, people are going to judge you regardless, whether it's like haters, not haters, people in general. That's just everybody. But it's like, but think about those negative impacts that you have, that you are in people's life. Because you're not the brightest person in everybody's life. You may not be the greatest person in everybody's life. Because in some people's life, you are the worst person in their life. And as ugly as that sounds, it's like, how did I treat someone badly, And now I want to fix that, but it's too late to fix that. So how can you fix the past? You can't. It's how you act now that you can fix it.
Well, thank you so much for being here with us. We genuinely so appreciate it for you being here and opening up to us and getting to know you on a deeper level, even though we already met him off camera.
Yeah, thank you to social media. We were able to meet him.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. No, I appreciated coming out here and just being a part of something like this, telling my story and, for all the audience as well.
Yeah, your story did, I can say from my end, at least my experience, your story did make an impact on me. I reflected myself in your thing and I'm just like, maybe I should slow down a little bit. So I appreciate you for speaking.
And same thing goes for me. You kind of molded a little angel. I don't know what you did, but you did something to me that I was just like, you're right. Maybe I should take a step back to appreciate the good things I have. Because lately, yes, I will admit, we've been a little bit complaining, but just because things don't go a certain way doesn't mean that it's not doing good. It just, God is redirecting us to things that are better. And now that you have said it, you kind of redirected it and now you made it kind of like a sense of like, okay, listen, relax. Things are going to work out the way they have to work out. So thank you for that, honestly. I appreciate it. But Crayolas, it was Brenda,
Cassandra,
Jose.
And where can my Crayolas find you?
You guys can find me at Jose Reyes Magic on all platforms.
Crayolas, we hope you guys did enjoy today's podcast episode.
We'll see you guys in the next one, Crayolas. Bye.